Whispers of the Wasatch. The rain was rare but relentless that night, drumming against the windows of Cafe Meridian, one of the few places still open on a dreary Tuesday in Salt Lake City, Utah. Inside, the scent of coffee mingled with damp wool as a handful of patrons sought shelter from the storm. At a corner table, a man with tired eyes and trembling hands leaned forward, his voice barely audible over the rain. "You don't believe me, do you?" he asked, staring at the younger man across from him. "I didn't say that," the younger man replied, his skeptical smile betraying his words. You have to admit, it's a lot to take in." The older man, whose name was Charles, ran a hand through his graying hair and exhaled sharply. "A lot? Kid, this story isn't just a lot, it's everything. It's why I'm still breathing, and it's why you need to listen to me before it's too late." The younger man, a freelance journalist named Liam, leaned back, his notepad untouched on the table. He had come here for a human interest story about the odd recluse who'd been spotted wandering the outskirts of the Great Salt Lake for the past decade. But what he'd gotten was a tale so outlandish, so drenched in conspiracy and mystery, that he didn't know whether to laugh or call the cops. "You're saying the lake? What cursed you?" Liam asked, half joking. Charles's face darkened. "Cursed, haunted, call it what you want. But once you've seen the lights, once you've heard the whispers, there's no going back." He paused, staring into his coffee as though it held answers. And then, as though deciding there was no turning back, he began. The Forgotten Expedition. "It started 15 years ago," Charles said, his voice steady despite the tremor in his hands. "I wasn't always the mess you see in front of you. I was a geologist, working for a private firm contracted to study the strange mineral patterns around the Great Salt Lake. There were whispers even then, locals talking about lights under the water, strange sounds at night, but I dismissed it as superstition. Just folklore, you know?" He took a sip of coffee, his eyes distant. "My team and I set up near Antelope Island. The first few days were uneventful, but then we found it. A fissure, deep in the lake bed, emitting a faint glow. At first, we thought it was some kind of natural phenomenon, a unique mineral maybe, but the glow, it wasn't just light, it felt alive. And then the whispers started." "What kind of whispers?" Liam asked, leaning forward now, his skepticism waning. "Not words exactly, more like thoughts, but they weren't mine. They'd creep in when you weren't expecting it, faint, insidious, and they were always the same. Come closer, see us, free us." "Free what?" Charles hesitated, his hands gripping his mug tightly. "We didn't know, but the more we studied the fissure, the worse things got. Equipment malfunctioned, people got sick, migraines, nosebleeds. One of my colleagues, Eric, claimed he saw something moving beneath the surface. A shadow, bigger than anything in the lake should have been. We laughed it off. But 2 nights later, Eric was gone. His tent was empty, his boots still sitting by the door. The only thing left was a trail of wet footprints leading straight into the lake." Liam shivered, but not from the cold. "What did you do? What could we do?" Charles said bitterly. "We called in the authorities. They searched the lake for days and found nothing. No Eric, no footprints, no sign of the fissure. It was as though it had all been erased. The project was shut down, and we were told to forget about it. Move on, but you don't forget something like that. Not when the whispers follow you everywhere you go." The first twist. As Liam scribbled notes, Charles suddenly grabbed his wrist, his grip surprisingly strong. "You don't understand," Charles hissed. "This isn't just my story. The lights, they choose people. And now they've chosen you." "What?" Liam yanked his hand back, startled. "I don't even know what you're talking about." Charles pointed to the window. Outside, the rain had stopped, and the city lights reflected dimly off the wet pavement. But in the distance, over the lake, a faint glow pulsed like a heartbeat. "They've been watching us this whole time," Charles whispered. Liam's heart raced. The glow seemed to grow brighter, its rhythm faster, as though it were alive. Descent into the unknown. Despite his better judgment, Liam agreed to accompany Charles to the lake. They drove in silence, the tension in the air thick enough to choke on. When they arrived, the shoreline was eerily quiet. No wind, no insects, just the soft, rhythmic pulsing of the lights in the distance. Charles led Liam to an old, rusted hatch partially submerged in the water. "This is where it starts," he said grimly. "What's down there?" Liam asked, his voice trembling. "The truth," Charles replied. "The revelation." The hatch opened to a tunnel carved into the earth, its walls glowing faintly with the same strange light. As they descended, the whispers began, soft at first, then louder, more insistent. They reached a massive underground chamber where a pool of water glowed unnaturally bright. In its center was a stone altar covered in symbols, and above it floated an orb of pulsating energy. "What is that?" Liam asked, awe and fear warring within him. "The heart of the lake," Charles said. "It's a doorway, and it's waking up." The final twist. As Liam stepped closer, the whispers turned into a roar. Visions flooded his mind, strange, otherworldly creatures, their forms shifting and impossible to comprehend. They were trapped, and they wanted out. But then, Liam saw something else. A memory that wasn't his own. He saw Charles, younger, standing at the altar. He wasn't trying to seal the doorway. He was trying to open it. "You lied," Liam said, turning to Charles. "You weren't a victim. You caused this." Charles's face twisted in anguish. "I thought I could control it, but it's too powerful. That's why I need you. You're the only one who can stop it now." Before Liam could respond, the chamber shook violently. The orb cracked, and shadows began pouring out, their forms indistinct but terrifying. The tragic end, Liam had no choice. He ran to the altar, grabbing a strange artifact that seemed to be the key to sealing the doorway. But as he did, the shadows attacked, their tendrils wrapping around his body. "Close it," Charles screamed. With his last ounce of strength, Liam thrust the artifact into the altar. The chamber erupted in light, and the shadows were pulled back into the orb. But Liam was pulled with them. When Charles emerged from the hatch, the lake was calm once more. The lights were gone, but so was Liam. The whispers had stopped, but Charles knew better. The lake wasn't done with him yet. It never would be.